Good evening, tech enthusiasts. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Techie Talk Show. We're thrilled to have a very special guest with us, Professor Joshua Dwight, a distinguished teacher at RMIT University. He'll be sharing insights from his incredible career journey and the challenges he's faced. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an engaging discussion. And now, let's dive into tonight's talk show.
First, Mr. Joshua, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so today we want to talk about we want to interview you about your past experience as an IT professional. So firstly, can you introduce a little bit about yourself and your experience?
Sure, so I'm Dr. Joshua Dwight. I'm currently a lecturer and interim associate program manager of IT and software engineering here at RMIT. But I have well over a decade of experience in various IT roles, including e-commerce, cybersecurity, DevOps, lots of different things. But today we'll focus on my experience with Costco, where I spent 7 years as a technical program manager managing the e-commerce environment. So that includes lots of development opportunities and security aspects as well.
What an extensive experience. Okay, so great. Let's start with our first question. So, can you please tell me about your IT work? What exactly that you have done within the time you work at Costco?
Sure. So at Costco, I was responsible for managing the technical infrastructure for our developers. So, and specifically for our e-commerce website. So we would sell roughly $5 to $10 billion in sales each year, US, which is, I think it was roughly the third or fourth biggest in the US. Amazon and Walmart were 1 and 2, and then we were quite a bit after them, but we still had a really big presence. So my particular experience was building the dev environments, the QA environments, the perf environments, and production environment, and supporting that in a DevOps role. So the developers would, produce code. They would check in that code. I would then deploy it into the dev integration environment, where they would test it out, make sure it's working. Once it was okay, I would push it into the QA. The QA team would then go and do all the test cases that they've done, and once it met a certain amount of time, that would get pushed into performance testing and then into production. So that was one aspect. The other aspect was anything update related. So any security updates, any patches, upgrades, anything else would also need to be applied along with any code base that was happening. So we would do that in a 3-week life cycle. So every 3 weeks we'd have a deployment to production, and it would have to go through dev, QA, perf, production.
That's just a lot of work to do.
And it's a lot of work to do. So again, I managed a team of 10 other system administrators, so we would do various aspects from spinning up virtual environments, again, to test out the different code and different changes that were going on.
So how exactly did you get into this role? So what kind of skill that is required? What kind of qualification?
So at the time when I joined Costco, it was circa 2011, and I had already 5 or 6 years of experience. At that point, I had worked for Boeing, I'd worked for the Department of Justice, worked for Washington Federal Bank, in various IT roles, and I had just completed my master's degree in information systems. And so I had experience and education, and I also had just finished my PMP certification, which is project management certification. So it's very well known in many industries, and especially very useful in IT. So they hired me to help with a lot of project related work as we were moving and transitioning from an older website to a newer website. So I think when I started at Costco, they were all Microsoft. I can't remember what their e-commerce, BizTalk, I think is what it was called. And then we switched over to IBM's e-commerce platform. And so there was a long project there. But there was lots of technology projects that needed to continuously be implemented. So basically, master's degree, lots of experience, let me get into that role.
Yeah, so you have said that you have traveled to a lot of the different positions, different company. So how do you come up with that career path? So what kind of what moment, who people that affect you that you did, so that you decide to choose the career path?
So originally I was not in IT at all. So my bachelor's degree was in accounting. And so I was an accounting and international business major in my original undergraduate degree. And when I graduated, I went to go work for the Department of Justice. And they had me work on their financial systems. So I didn't have the technical expertise, but I had the financial expertise to work with developers and with technical people. So I started doing quality assurance testing on their financial systems to make sure that it was appropriate for the end user, which was the accounting and financial teams. And then slowly I morphed into cybersecurity because they needed somebody in cybersecurity, and back then the government had just released what was called the Federal Information Security Management Act, which laid out a lot of regulations around how the government's supposed to secure everything. And so they needed somebody to help implement a lot of those. And so that's where I started to fall into that aspect. So again, I didn't start in IT, but eventually I got pushed in there. And it's been up and down. So when I came, I was working in DC there, and then decided that I wanted to move back to Seattle. And so then I started working at Boeing as an industrial engineer. Wasn't really my thing, but again, I had experience in processes and other things, and so I basically managed creating the fuselage of the 747 program. So I would walk around and schedule people and mechanics to build the fat part of the plane. Right. So, but that wasn't my thing. I wasn't really into aerospace engineering. And so then I got a job as an IT auditor. So again, I've been really, really involved in the financial and IT aspects of it. So anything that combines the two, I've been usually a part of. So banking and IT auditor was a great position for them at Costco. Again, financial, the retail aspect, along with the technical aspects. So that's where I spent the majority of my career before moving into academia and everything.
So I think that financial and IT, what a good combination.
Yeah. But lots of people have issues with one or the other, and even both of those together flummoxes many people.
Okay, so it seems like that your role involves a variety of tasks. So let's put the technical part aside. So what other kinds of work do you have on a daily basis? Can you share a little bit about that? Your personal life as an IT professional?
As an IT professional, so again, you spent a lot of time in meetings that were technical in nature, but not technical. So again, they might have been every day we'd have a stand-up talking about the different projects that we're working on, or you were in a specific meeting for that project. So I wasn't necessarily leading that project. I'd be a part of other projects. So we do a daily stand-up, capture all the information that was going on my team, convey it for that project, and I'd have several meetings in the morning around that. Next part would be look at any issues that arose, which every day there was an issue with the e-commerce site. And so any issues we would typically work at, and I'd get a lot of emails about this, or a lot of emails about, hey, can you spin up this for this project? So again, a lot of requests, lots of emails, lots of meetings. So to go along with any of the technical aspects. And again, we also had to meet with the business side, who was making a lot of decisions that IT had to try to figure out how to implement as well. So there was a lot of variety in that. And then other things, you just get notification from Microsoft or any of our third-party vendors that were saying, hey, you need to fix these things right away because there's vulnerabilities happening, you need to fix it right away. So stuff like that.
So to sum up, a lot of notification, a lot of meeting.
A lot of meetings, and again, sometimes actually doing the technical work that I needed to do. So you spend probably about a third of your day in meetings, third to half in meetings and responding to emails, and then the other half actually doing the technical work.
So typing the code, building the code, just one
I wouldn't build the code. That was all the developers. I just deploy it. So I would take whatever source code that they provided, and I would use. Again, they would check it into Jenkins, which is a repository, and then I would just deploy it to our specific environment, because they weren't supposed to have access to all the other environments. They were only supposed to have access to the dev environment. So I was responsible for pushing it in between the different environments.
So a lot of people work in the IT department told me that they have a lot of back pain, a lot of back pain, headaches, and spend not enough time for their family. So do you have any kind of that downside experience?
Yeah, I do. Luckily mine, again, since it was a retail company and not a tech company, it wasn't as bad, but there were times where I got to spend from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So after working the full 40 hours a week, then on Saturday night had to work all night to deploy some huge project with like hundreds of other employees that were doing different things. So I would do a very extended release, again, because we were implementing such a big project late at night. You'd get very tired, and luckily, at the time I was just, my current wife was just my girlfriend, so we didn't have kids or anything. So there was times where she actually came into work to drive me home.
Really?
Yeah, so she slept on the floor in an office, and then when I was done at 8 a.m., I'm just like, I can't drive. She would then wake up and drive me home. So there were times like that where there were some definitely late night things, but generally you tried to balance it off. So if you did that, you try to take like Monday off or something, so you can still try to maintain the balance. But there were times where sometimes you couldn't, and you just had to work quite a bit, because that's just the IT thing. So usually we didn't have enough people to cover everything, and so there's a lot of the same people doing the same thing over and over and over again.
So maybe that's why IT professional is paid just high.
They're paid really a lot, because again, not only the technical expertise, but also spending late hours into the night completing things.
I think to be an IT professional require not only professional, but requires some passion.
Yeah, I think you need to be definitely passionate about the things. And again, it'll just depend on what you want to do. A lot of times what you see is after 2 or 3 years, especially tech people, they feel like they plateaued at a certain company, and they'll generally try to work on something different. So you'll see them hop to a different company. And it's very uncommon to see them stay for 5 years, because generally 5 years is kind of what most people think is the expert level or mastery level of that particular area. Because 5 years generally means you spent 10,000 hours, because it's roughly 2,000 hours per year doing whatever that is, whether it's software development, and again, there might be different projects, but ultimately you're still just doing software development. So generally after 5 years, many people will have mastered that and then try to do something else. So they might try to move to management, they might try to be a solution architect, go up to engineer, and start to do other more advanced type of things.
Thank you for that is a lot of experience that you can. So anybody has other question about his personal life as an IT professional as well as his experience at Costco? Before we move to another part.
Are we asking the crowd here?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a talk show, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, me. So I know that in this kind of IT fields, you have to like this kind of IT field. There's a lot of things that you need to learn and study, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to study all about the new technology and stuff. So how do you do that? Like you read the news or any kind of specific sources that you often read to like update the new technology and stuff?
Yeah, so it just depends on the company. So when you're trying to stay abreast of everything, usually you get lots of information from your vendor, because different from being a student or anything, when you're the IT professional, you're paying people, so they're providing you lots of support. So they're offering trainings, they're offering documentation, they're sending you the latest updates of what they're changing. So you're getting a lot of information fed to you now. But if you're planning on changing that, then you have to obviously do a little bit more research and try to figure out if there's a different platform that'll do better for you. And again, it's just finding out who's the major players in a particular industry. Like we said, like at the time, IBM had one of the bigger e-commerce platforms that was very, very quick. So unlike Walmart, our company had a faster uptime than Walmart. So we were very big on making sure that our website loaded up faster than anybody else. That was one of our things. And so you have to look at those types of systems and how you can leverage them to do what you want. Whether that's being the fastest or the most throughput, the less friction throughout your customer experience, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's reading lots of documentation. It's good. I mean, even when I was at Costco, I got an MBA while I was at Costco as well. All kinds of, LinkedIn, more education, professional education across the board. I picked up the IDLE certification. I'm sure I picked up more certifications, and I have a lot of certifications too. So you just continuously try to keep an eye on. There's too much out there, so you can't do everything. So you just gotta really either be very, very much a generalist, or you just pick a very, very specific area that you really, really want to concentrate on.
I think it's like in general, like the latest news or something, maybe I don't know, great fast technology or big company, big tech or something, what they're doing and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, they'll put out a bunch of press releases and things like that. You might have seen yesterday in the US, NIST just released what they are suggesting to implement in terms of quantum computing, which isn't even available yet. So they're already saying this is the way that you should use encryption in quantum computing. And they've released three probably super long documents on different ways to encrypt and use cryptography in the quantum computing when it becomes available. So they're very, very forward-facing. And again, NIST and other, and that's a government one. That's not even a tech one that's releasing this post-quantum computing stuff. Even though quantum computing hasn't even really come to fruition yet.
Yeah. We be prepared for everything, right?
And so you do a little bit of scenario planning, but again, with technology, you just don't know what's going to be adopted and what's not. You prepare for it. I mean, everyone before generative AI, it was kind of around. Some people were paying attention to it, but before the latest ChatGPT in the last year and a half, everyone was focusing on blockchain,
Yeah.
NFTs. And now you don't hear anything about NFTs.
Yeah, that's right.
NFTs are just kind of like, still some blockchain stuff, but not nearly as in the news and up front as, generative AI everything now, so.
I believe this guy is doing some blockchain mining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have another question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so with kind of your background, like cybersecurity, accounting and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
why don't you like trying to do something like, I don't know, watching the movie, they have something like FBI, financial crime department or something,
Yes, it's an interesting field.
Yeah.
But if you're I can't join the FBI. I'm too old.
Really?
About?
Yeah. So if you wanted to be an investigator, it ends at like age 35 or something. So to be a field agent, like to carry a gun, carry a badge, yeah, they only, I think they have it from like 20, it might be 22 through like 35 or 37, and then you can't do it.
You could be like manager or like chief or something. Just wait
No,
up.
I couldn't be not in. Usually, you have to have the law enforcement experience to do that. I could be something higher level than that, and it'd have to be. I could join, some other aspect that's more security related, but usually law enforcement, to go beyond that, you have to have been an FBI agent, basically within that time frame to continue on to do it until, whatever, 50, 55. But they won't accept you after that because probably most Americans are too fat and can't get into shape enough to, do that. So usually they have a recruiting age guidelines, and then anything after that is, and it's the same with the military too in the U.S. So again, you have the cutoff. But I've always focused on it from the non-legal standpoint. So again, more from what can corporations do, what can nonprofits do, and so even before joining RMIT, I worked for a nonprofit that focused on payment security and fraud. And so basically there were just all these payment fraud professionals that worked with all these organizations, and we would work with them to put out annual reports about what they're seeing. Because again, there's a lot of things that law enforcement doesn't do. Like the crimes are too small that they won't even bother. I mean, and you probably see it here too. Like, you say if you say, "Hey, I got scammed," they'll be like, "Why are you so dumb? Why did you get scammed and why are you so dumb that you get scammed?" They're not going to go investigate. So there's some stuff that's, unless it's like really really big, that makes them look good. And it's the same thing in the U.S. Like they can't look at every single crime.
Yeah,
they don't have
they
enough
don't have
people.
enough people.
Not enough people. Not enough resources. And they're not going to try to help, somebody that lost $100 or $500. It has to be like a big criminal gang that's hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars that they need to find and stop. So, and again, it's just a different aspect. And again, before I kind of got into that, back into this, I wasn't thinking about getting back into cybersecurity. When I was still thinking about like retail and e-commerce type stuff. And by that time I was already too old. But so again, there's other aspects again. So now I just spend a lot of time more on this, on what can businesses do to counteract. Again, not saying that I couldn't join some government, a U.S. government agency in the future. It would definitely not be with me like running around carrying a gun and be like, "Stop criminals! I got you! I know you're the $100 scammer."
Okay, thank you for sharing about your experience.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. So let's follow up with the next part of our interview. So
Alright.
as a manager,
Okay.
you have to interact with a lot of people, right? Technical and also non-technical part,
Mhm.
right? So can you tell me more about your collaboration with other people?
Sure. So again, we had to, and by we I mean I had to work with a lot of many different stakeholders. So again, in the past and even now, like I work with lots of industry professionals. I work with vendors. I work with contractors. So I even had a handful of contractors that worked directly for me. I would send out contracts and have people submit proposals to me to do cybersecurity work because I couldn't do it all myself. So I'd have to hire a third party to come and do, like we're doing in our classes, doing vulnerability testing, doing ethical hacking to see where they can attack us and things that I might not have thought of, my other colleagues might not have thought of. And so you have to interact with a lot of different people, both on the business, and you have to balance it out because, again, as much as we want to be, and this is a problem in the profession, or I won't say a problem, but is this something you need to be careful of in cybersecurity, is balancing what the business is trying to do. If you work for a corporation like Costco, because again, their main goal isn't to stop cyber criminals. Their main goal is to keep selling large amounts of mayonnaise and furniture and
how to make people spend
as much money as possible on the website. And again, cybersecurity is just a small piece of that. Not saying that it's not important, but a lot of times you'll find a lot of security professionals, and to the audience's point of like, oh, don't you want to work in financial crimes? I think a lot of them kind of go like that, like, oh, I want to catch the bad guy, but they have to stop because it's illegal for a normal person or an organization to go after, criminals, right? So they can potentially also get a lot of harm done. So there's a balancing act between doing any sort of that aspect. But back to your original question, I would spend days just working with the technical folks, but I'd also be sitting in the CEO's office being like, here's all the stuff that this audit showed, and like these outside auditors saying, we have to do all this stuff, otherwise we're gonna have a giant data breach. And so I would be arguing with the CFO who's like, no, it doesn't matter. And so again, you're gonna be in some of these points where you might be arguing, trying to prove your point to the CFO, the CEO, the CTO, directors, managers. So again, you're going to be working up and down the organizational, horizontal across the organization. So you definitely need some really good communication skills and understand where everybody's coming from, because again, CEO is only going to care about making money and what's kind of the main mission of the company, where your director is going to care about just all the technical aspects of it. And then obviously you might just be responsible for all the cybersecurity aspects. So again, you have to put yourself in many different mindsets.
So I think that the further you climb as the higher level you be as an IT professional, especially as a manager, you have to communicate with much more non-technical part, right?
Yeah, and so you have to be careful when you use a lot of technical lingo, and again, and this is a problem I also just see in general. Everyone expects, it's like, oh, that's so simple from a technology standpoint. But you'd be surprised how like the simplest tech stuff, even that you're learning in here, just baffles the average person. The average person just has trouble using Excel or Word or the internet or installing something, and so you have to keep that in mind when you're interacting with people that are definitely not IT oriented, because again, it is its own language in and of itself. So you have to be very talk in very basic terms when you communicate, and to try and get that understanding across the organization. So whether it's the business folks who just like think that IT is magic and you can do anything, so which is most of the time that, again, you can do quite a bit with technology. You know, writing code, you can do quite a bit, but again, you can't do everything because again, there are going to be some trade-offs in whatever it is that you're creating. So.
I think that is the problem that most technical person have when dealing with non-technical person.
Yeah.
Because as per my experience, sometimes I have a very simple problems on my iPad, but when my girlfriend got the same problem, she's like, "Oh my God, my iPad is broken."
Throws it away.
Yeah,
says I need to go get a new one.
I kind of like, yeah, just yeah, this. So as you have said, communicating with non-technical part is very important in the life of an IT professional, right?
Yep.
So are there any way that we can improve our communicating skill, especially with the non-technical part?
Yeah, I mean, just practice. It's just practice. So you just talk to a lot of people. So again, there are lots of ways to practice communication. Again, you can find some sort of course that you can do it, but there's also a lot of internet groups that you can do meetup groups where they practice presenting, which I know a lot of students have trouble presenting. I've seen students in my past classes who if they just get up in front of anybody, it's just like, oh, this can't do it. It's very difficult. And even, students, have trouble just coming up and talking to me, even though I'm just standing there and it's just a one-on-one conversation. I think many are reluctant to do that, but the thing is, you just have to try and you have to go out, because if you can't communicate, you're not going to be very helpful to anybody to say, exactly, this is what I'm doing, this is how I can contribute, this is how I can solve your problem. If you can't convey what you're doing and how you're solving the problem, you're not going to last very long.
Yeah, thank you. So I think another part of another important part of an IT professional is that networking skill. Because as you have said, you cannot do everything.
Yeah.
So you have to collaborate with others. You have to work as a team a lot, right? So are there any specific challenge you have experienced when you work at Costco?
Oh yeah, there was arguments all the time.
I remember the time.
Arguments all the time. So you'd have like an engineer arguing with a solution architect constantly on the best way to do something. They would have two different visions of how to solve the problem, and this one would say, no, mine is the best. No, this is the best. And basically you just let them argue until you say, okay, well, what's going to be our decision? Because we need to figure out how to do this accurately and meet whatever the business has asked. So again, there's going to be times where people think their solution is the best, and you just have to go out and try it. So okay, show us. Is this better than this other one? Have them both go at it, and to see which one's the better solution. So again, you have to just be open to letting people, show their solution and trying to figure out, is that the best solution? Now, again, it's going to depend, because a lot of times, again, a solution architect is more of a generalist, so they know generally how everything works across the thing. But you might have like a database engineer who's very, very deep in, database engineering and knows like the best ways to do it. So again, you have to give some leeway to the expert, but sometimes the expert's wrong. And sometimes just because there's that integrative piece, that even though they might be right as an individual piece of technology, when it's integrated with something else,
It's
it's
just
not, it just brings and it's
Yeah.
not the right solution. So you have to sometimes just let people fail, let them see that they fail and say, that's okay, we expect failure. We're just really trying to find the best job and try to find the best solution. And so, again, in communicating that it's okay to make mistakes, to be wrong, and just to move past it and keep on doing it. And sometimes another thing that I've seen is a lot of professionals have a hard time letting go of some of the things that they do. Like they like to do the thing that they do, but sometimes to move up, they need to let go of some things that they like doing in order to get to a higher level.
If you love something, set it free.
Yeah, if you love it, again, you have to let someone else come and take it over, and that allows you the free time. So then, if you're just a database administrator, well, now you can focus on trying to become a database engineer, and moving up, where you need to be. But again, sometimes a lot of people have a hard time letting go. I mean, and it's just something that you have to think about and consider, because if you don't let it go, then they just might fire you and just replace you with someone, with a younger person who can equally do the same thing.
Yeah.
But because you don't want to move up or something like that. So.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so now there's another problem, I think, difficult that we found when working with each other is that sometimes like an introvert people, as Hank, I think she's very introvert. As you can see, she's just sitting over there smiling because she don't know what to. She feel embarrassing when interacting with other people. So, are there any ways she can improve her interacting skills and be more extrovert?
Again, introversion and extroversion are preferences generally. Like it's my preference to be extroverted. A lot of people might say, well, no, that's just part of you. It's not really part of you, it's just your preference, it's what you're comfortable with. And so whether you're introverted, and again, there is a definite feeling that when you're introverted, right, that you feel better in one-to-one conversations, you feel better and get energy from deep thinking, being away from other people, where extroverts get more energy from being around people. I mean, that's how I thrive. I steal all my students' energy, and I keep going.
Yeah.
And so I'm extroverted. So again, I get more energy being around people. But again, on the flip side, you just have to recognize what your preference is and try to work on it. So again, it might just be starting with one-to-one conversations. But if you see all the major tech people, Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, not Steve Ballmer, but Bill Gates,
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs is what I was thinking of. They're both introverts.
Yeah, that's right.
And they had to learn how to speak to people. They had to learn to do presentations. So again, it's not that you can't do it. It's just focusing, learning, practicing to do it. And again, and even like some of the major podcasts that I listen to, somebody that you're listening to these podcasters and you think, oh, they're an extrovert. And they'll say on their podcast, they're like, I am not an extrovert. I've had to work really hard just to talk in front of people. And again, it's just about practice, and you just have to be okay with messing up in front of people. So it's totally okay just to come and talk to me, Hung. So you don't have to feel bad. Don't feel embarrassed. Hearts. See, so again, and I know it brings a lot of anxiety, and again, the thing is, you just have to try to work past it. Again, try to work past your fears, whatever those are. But I always suggest just get out there, just start practicing in whatever fashion. I mean, because again, a lot of people are introverts, but they've just learned and practiced on not being, even though every fiber of their being's like, no, don't go in front of those people. I mean, even me as an extrovert, I still get nervous about speaking in large groups.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you still get nervous about it. You still have a little bit of anxiety about it because again, what if I mess up? What if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
And again, but that's just normal. Our normal brains and things always going to the negative aspects. So again, practice, learn, just start conversing with random folks. That's what I do. Just go somewhere that nobody knows you. Go to some Bia Hoi. Just start talking. Just start talking to somebody.
It's a good place to start practicing talking with people.
Yeah. So again, again for those that are of age, of course, to do that, or just go to a coffee shop and just start talking to somebody, even if it's just, that way you both don't know each other and you're just striking up a conversation. So lots of different ways.
Okay, thank you about your ways, your sharing about the ways to improve interacting skills. So I would just want to ask another question about time management, because as you have said, when you're working for Costco, you have to work from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. sometimes even after midnight, and your wife had to drive you home, right? So it sounds like a lot of work to do as an IT professional. So how do you balance the time? How do you prioritize your tasks that you have to do, but you like balance the time you spend with your college, balance the time you spend with your family?
So okay, there's a couple of questions in there. So first one, to balance just work in general. When you're working with your colleagues, you usually, and what I used in the past, and again, there's different methods to manage your time, and you need to try out the ones. There's lots of different methods. I personally use time boxing. So this is where you set a minimum or maximum amount of time that you're going to be working on something. So it could be working on your personal things, or working with somebody else, or even solving an issue. So generally, when an issue came, we would time box it. Say, okay, you have 2 hours to solve this. If you haven't solved it in 2 hours, we need to bring someone else to help you. And then we'd find somebody else. And if it went beyond that, then we'd find somebody else. So you keep climbing the level of importance. So again, it might have just been, okay, you're a system administrator. Can you solve this? No. Okay, I need a database manager or a database admin. Okay, get the database admin. Okay, they can't solve it. Bring in an engineer. Okay, bring in a solution architect. So you'd eventually find somebody that could figure out the problem. And you had tiers of how you escalated different issues. And that's for, again, just managing kind of the work internally. And again, I do it even today. So I'll spend like an hour in the morning looking through emails, responding to emails. Okay, then I need to spend an hour doing this thing, another hour doing this thing, 3 hours doing this. And again, it's not always perfect. I don't always do it, but I have a rough timeline of time boxing different things.
Just an estimated time, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't try to go too crazy in holding it. If I go a little bit over, it doesn't, not too bad. But again, and especially if it's something like a really good, like if I'm just trying to finish a publication, then I might spend a little bit more time to try to finish it. But if I keep along those rough guidelines, then I'm able to get mostly what I want to do. Now, in terms of spending work balance, again, work-life balance. When you're young, there is none.
There's not?
No. So, and again, it's going to be a trade-off. So, again, you can do the high-paying job, but just know getting that really, really high-paying job, there's going to be very, very little
Time
for family. So, it's either take a lower job and you have more time to spend with your family, but don't expect that you're going to be making this number if you're expecting any sort of balance. Now, when you're young, you can, go multiple days, do the multiple nights without sleeping. You can do these things when you're young. When you're older, it gets much harder, and that's when you start to move into management and to slower roles and things like that. But when you're young, and again, I've heard this sentiment, that, whatever profession you're in, you should spend a lot of time, even if it's overtime, just developing all those skills, getting all that experience, making as much money as you can. And then that sets you up better for in your 30s, your 40s, that sort of thing. Now, unless you really, really love whatever it is you're doing and willing to take a pay cut, and again, there are jobs like that. So if you're more into, hey, maybe I want to be an IT person for a nonprofit, that's not going to pay as high as a company. It's going to pay generally lower, but you might have a lot more free time. They only operate from 9 to 5, and then you're done. If anything breaks, it's not the end of the world. It's not stopping business, that sort of thing. So again, basically the more you get paid, the more impact that your work will be on a business.
The more back pain that you have.
The more back pain. But I mean, there's other things. I mean, usually most companies now have the standing desk, so you're usually can stand up and do that, and then go back down and then back up and things of that nature. But I mean, you also just need to go take a walk and that sort of thing. I think that's answered that question. And, But if you're in IT, just get used to working long hours.
Okay, I can imagine on the work they have to do. Yeah.
But again, when you do all that and then you see that paycheck, you're just like, wow, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
I can do a lot of things with that money. And again, it just depends what you want to do. So again, if you're trying to save up for, vacation, traveling, car,
take some
house,
time off.
Take some time off. Again, so I mean, it's up to you how you want to try to balance it. So again, you can either go full tilt and just do lots of work, make lots of money, or you spread it out and then you're not as you have better life balance, but you're also not making as much money. You might not be able to travel because you're not making as much money. So again, there's just going to be a series of trade-offs that you can do.
I believe that receiving the paycheck is the easiest part of the job, right?
Yeah, getting that fat paycheck and then spending it's way too easy.
Yeah. So that is the easiest part. So according to you, which is the hardest part of the job?
Again, the multitasking is very difficult. So again, getting lots of different requests, lots of different issues happening all at the same time, and just dealing with all the things. And again, sometimes you deal with it correctly, sometimes you don't. So again, nobody, as much as everyone wants to say they're good at multitasking, the research has shown nobody's good at multitasking.
Yeah, I'm not good at that.
No,
I can do only one work at a time.
Yeah, so I have to do the same, and that's why I do time boxing, is I have to concentrate on one thing. If I try to do too many things at once, it just nothing happens. And so that's one of the harder aspects of working in IT, again, is the competing tasks and requests that you get and trying to manage those effectively.
So are there any hard times that you have experienced? Are there any major setback or failure that you got during your IT professional time?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's always mistakes. I mean, again, I had to do multiple overnight releases. Sometimes they went too long because I didn't stop the other people quick enough. So I let them. So what happened was it's probably like 2 a.m. at a person who was trying to update this one thing. It wasn't updating correctly. And they tried to roll it back and they couldn't roll it back. And so we spent too much time trying to let them try to solve it rather than just cutting them off and just moving forward. And so we came, I think, 2 hours over our allotted time, which is in retail time, that's a long time in e-commerce, because we were making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars every hour. And so every hour that we weren't up and running was potential loss of income and sales. And so you'd make small mistakes like that. Again, you try to offset as much as possible, but it's going to happen. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, even look at CrowdStrike. They brought down a good chunk of the world, and you know they're hurting, but you know they'll probably recover, maybe recover. But again, that's a huge mistake. Where you know having a minor mistake, you can usually rebound from them and recover. But again, as you progress through your careers, just know you're going to make mistakes. There'll be times where everything's going awesome, everything's going well, and then there's other times that are just garbage, and you're just like, why is everything going wrong?
Yeah.
And again, you just have to know that you know, everyone thinks that your career ladder is like this, and it's just constantly.
This is like this, right?
No, but yeah, it's sometimes up, it's sometimes down, it's sometimes down again, it's sometimes lateral, it just keeps going like this, sometimes it goes back up, and sometimes it goes back down. So, again, there's just going to be ups and downs, and you just have to accept that that's just part of life, part of the jobs. And again, sometimes, and again, there's going to be things that are just outside your control. And that's, I think, what a lot of people have a hard time dealing with. So again, when people get laid off, when a large amount get laid off, the economy is going bad, and you know, lots of people get laid off.
After the AI wave, 4,000 people like. The Intel laid off.
Yep, so lots of people laid off from Intel. And again, and it always amuses me. I mean, it's unfortunate, but to expect a company to continuously give you a job is kind of silly in my mind. Because most of us don't think about working for these companies for like 30 years. So why are you surprised that they would let you go for any reason? So again, there's just a balance of managing expectations. Yes, you might be surprised, but you should really not be surprised, because again, this is how organizations operate, especially in you know, the way the world works. And again, economies go up and down, countries go up and down. Everybody goes through ups and downs. So it's not just an individual, whole countries, organizations. Everyone goes ups and downs.
So how do you propose some way to get out of the hole after you hit the bottom?
You just work on developing new skills. So again, if you hit bottom, you just have to recognize what was going wrong. So again, a lot of times, and this goes back to, you know, multitasking, like sometimes I have a hard time not trying to do too many things. Like I'll say yes to too many things because I'm like, that sounds like a cool thing. Yes, let's put it on my part. And sometimes it's just I add too many things to what I have to do, that it's most likely overwhelming me. So that's things that I've struggled with throughout my career, is just trying to do. Again, you know, it doesn't sound like, oh, I try to do too many things. Like it's not a humble brag. It's I'm trying to do too many things that I really shouldn't have been doing. It's just making sure that you know, that you're recognizing where you're going wrong and then correcting that. So now I have to just be careful not to accept everything that comes across. Because again, there's going to be lots of interesting projects, lots of interesting things that come from the outside. So again, you might be working a lot, and then, you know, somebody might ask you to come and speak at a thing, and you're like, yeah, I'll do that. And then you get pulled into another thing and another thing. And so then you like, oh my gosh, I have like no time. And it's because you keep saying yes to too many things.
That's why we don't say yes to 4 courses a semester.
That's why we try to tell students, don't say yes to 4 courses in a semester.
I think we are struggling with 3 courses, right? That's right. Yeah. I think the next semester I will take only 2 courses. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so can you choose a kind of like a project that do you think sum up the essence of an IT life, an IT industry?
So say that again.
Can you share a project that you have done that in your opinion sum up the essence of the IT industry, like every aspect of the IT industry?
So is there an example of the IT experience?
Yeah. And
Is that what we're asking here?
yeah, I think what we were trying to ask you is like as an when we work in IT industry, right? We have to do this, we have to do that, and so are there any project or are there any working experience of you that sum up all of the aspects?
I don't know if it sums up all of the aspects, but just know that, there's going to be projects that are going to be really cool that you get to work on. And then there's going to be tasks and things that are just not that interesting. So you're going to have, and again, it's trying to make sure that anything that you work on is value added. So again, whatever it is that can contribute to, in my case, e-commerce, what can we technically do to enhance the customer experience? Can we make it faster to check out? Can we
Can you make
pictures.
people spend?
Yeah, can you make people spend more? Can you have more people spend more time on the site? Can you have them be wowed by the pictures, the videos? What are the things that you can do to make that experience better? And again, that's for a customer-facing app, which many of you will work on. But if there's something that's not customer-facing, all the back-end stuff, then you want to think about, okay, is this as correct? Is this as quick? Is this optimized as possible to support whatever it is this code is supposed to be doing? If it's not for the customer experience, is it providing value to other people in your company? So I've had, there's been software developers who, they think they're going to be, working on the main product. And a lot of times they're just making tools for other developers. So they're just developing software tools to make this other teams faster. And that's equally as important because again, and sometimes that's what you do because for whatever reason, you got really good at it, right? So you figured out how to make really cool tools for developers. I mean, and that's a whole thing in and of itself. And you usually don't hear that in the classroom about, basically professionals making tools for other.
We have lots of tools that made by other people, like for example, Word and Excel, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of tools.
But think of this as the more of the your classmate making a tools to make your coding go faster. Like they're like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. This is definitely helpful. And so there's going to be projects like that, which again are equally important. But again, you want to do anything that's value added that can contribute to again either your coworkers, to the main website, the main product, to the business, things like that, to the organization.
So, what is the biggest project that you have done in your career?
So the biggest project was probably the migration from the old website to the new e-commerce platform. So moving from Microsoft to IBM was a very, very big project because it was moving from totally all Microsoft to a new IBM platform, which was Linux-based. And most of our people only had Microsoft backgrounds, so getting them trained in Linux, and along with also Oracle, along with Microsoft. So we didn't totally get rid of all the Microsoft pieces, but now we had this hybrid system that incorporated Oracle, Microsoft, and IBM. And so it was a very, very complex process. And then another part we had to add was syncing to SAP, if you're familiar with SAP. So SAP is an enterprise resource planning system made by the Germans. It's its own giant thing that's meant to be kind of the single app for like a manufacturing company. So it would entail everything. Manufacturing aspect, planning aspect, sales, marketing, everything would be incorporated in that. We had an entire SAP system that also connected to our website. So we had all these, I think we had over 300 integrations to our e-commerce site. So
one big.
it is one big giant thing. So that was probably one of the bigger projects I worked on. And then just, yeah, that was probably the biggest. And then, worked on some, I built out an IT audit program for the bank. That was pretty big because I didn't have one. I built an IT and payment fraud certification for my last job. So I built out that whole certification with other industry professionals. So we built it from the ground up, from scratch. And so that's like, creating the CISSP from nothing, if there was nothing there.
Yeah. And so I come up with a whole new idea.
Yeah, so we had to come up with things that were very, very, very specific to payment fraud. And so there's lots of projects that you're going to work on that, again, you're going to have to get used to working with a lot of people. If you think you can do everything yourself, very rare are the people, that can design a whole thing by themselves. Yes, some small mobile apps, yes, but to do really, really well, you definitely are working on teams constantly.
So I think that is the most important thing that you have learned from this very, right?
Yeah, so again, as much as we think, it's, all me, it's just the situation and the people that you're with too, because again, you're going to be successful by being around other people who enhance your success and you vice versa enhance their success. And so that's a big part of it. And again, there's very few people that are able to do it all by themselves. Even Elon Musk, as much as he says, it's all me, he didn't build it. He got a giant grant from the US government. He basically took all these patents from NASA and reused them to rebuild SpaceX. Now he's done incredible stuff with his teams to make new things, but again, it wasn't all him. As much as he wants to claim all that nonsense, everybody gets help from somewhere, someone, someplace.
That's why I love group assignments, not individual assignments.
Again, there's going to be times when you need to do individual things, but again, most of the time you're going to be doing a lot of project-based stuff.
So I think that's all for today. So final question.
Okay.
Only one more question is that as an IT professional as well as our teacher, do you have any advice that you want to give to the junior IT like us?
Yeah, just try out anything. So try out anything you're interested in, try out an internship, because again, you just don't know what you like until you start experiencing it, until you start trying it out. If I had gone back in time, like if I would have known that industrial engineering was a thing, I would have probably thought about getting into industrial engineering. I didn't know what industrial engineering was when I was an undergraduate. I only found out after the fact. I was like, oh, this is like process engineering, which is right up my alley. I'm very much into process and that sort of aspect. So, but again, generally too late when I found out. But again, you test out different things and you're just like, oh, this is interesting. And again, it's gonna ebb and it's gonna flow and you're gonna change what you like and you might find something new interesting. So again, test out lots of different things. You might find something that you like. You might experience things that you don't like. So again, I definitely did not like accounting and I've pivoted out of that and gone more into IT. So again, you just don't know what you don't know. You don't know. You have this idea of grandeur, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be a software developer, I'm gonna do this. And then when you get there, it's like, oh, yeah, maybe I'm gonna be a database person, or maybe I like doing this back end stuff. So again, or maybe I like cybersecurity. That sounds
Yeah,
interesting.
maybe
Oh, I'm fighting financial crimes. I'm gonna join the government. So again, try out lots of different things, and again, whether it is through internships, getting a job, even reaching out to people who are already in the field and just asking them like, hey, what's your experience with this? Or, hey, can I come and just shadow you at your work just to see what it's like? Most often or not, people are pretty open to letting you show up and just kind of watch them or meet with you. And so, again, and don't worry about failure. Just expect it. Failure is going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
I experience failure every day. I try to get new industry people to speak to my classes all the time, and I get rejected constantly. Oh yeah. I mean, and again, it's not necessarily that they don't want it, but their companies won't let them.
Yeah.
And so,
This is
again,
just
so there's
guilty,
going to
right?
be, I mean, again, I'm failing not from any fault of my own. I mean, I can't, they wanted to. We thought it was a good idea, but their company said, nope, we don't want anybody doing this. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, we are a little bit in the field like a disappointment when you don't reply our email after 2 days.
It's a busy week. It's very busy. Why were you depressed after 2 days? Usually
Because we are junior, we easily get depressed, we easily get disappointed.
After 2 days. Oh
my God.
Why didn't he? He said we didn't really tell him the time though until we sent him that email a week later. But we asked him like 2 weeks ago. And even if you don't hear anything for a few days, you'll be surprised that some people will be like, oh, sorry, I've been busy for 2 weeks, or I'm on vacation for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Again, it's very common when that sort of things happen. But again, you're thinking with your caveman monkey mind,
Yeah, that's
so
right.
which always goes to the negative. It's like, oh, he didn't respond. Oh, this isn't going well.
Yeah.
Because again, that's part of unfortunately our brains are just tuned to always go towards the negative, which is an unfortunate state of being for humans. But again, just accept it. Just accept failure.
Yeah.
Some things don't work out. Move past it.
Yeah,
go to the
something gonna
next thing.
fail. Something gonna fail. I think.
Something's gonna fail. I always think that something's gonna fail, but always plan for the best. And again,
Yeah.
might get a response. Might say, yeah, we got an internship available. Sure, come and join our company. I mean, and sometimes, in my past, I've gone through like multiple. At one point in my career, I went through, I think it was over 50 interviews.
50 interviews.
50.
Wow.
So this was right around right after the financial crisis around 2011. And so this was when I got hired by Costco, but I went through 5 rounds with Costco, 5 rounds with Accenture, and a number of other different companies. And so I was failing constantly. So I get a few interviews and then nothing. A few interviews and then nothing.
After 2 or 3 rounds and still fail, right?
Yeah, you go 2 or 3 rounds and then fail. So I worked. I was in the final round with Smartsheet. If you've heard with them, they were like a kind of a project management tech company. I went multiple rounds with them, and then I failed. And so it was like, oh my gosh. So again, expect failure, but also keep trying. Eventually, you can overwhelm the system by trying.
Yeah. Sometimes DI is as good as HD.
Yeah. Again, most companies don't even bother to look at grade point average unless
Like,
it's for like a
really?
very, very specific program.
Like I heard from my sister, she's now working in US. She said that most of the company right now they using some kind of AI to filter the employee CV. Like that AI will identify if your GPA is lower than 3, then it will be eliminated.
Yeah, but that's not most companies. No, that might be for like the Googles and Microsofts. but most normal companies don't go to that level. And again, usually they'll put it on the job description of what the requirements are. And most of them don't say, yes, you must have a 3.0. Most of that is usually around internships, right? So internships and very specialized leadership programs. So in the US, it's common to have what are called rotational job opportunities. So where the fresh graduates get into this rotational program. So they'll get put in 3 or 4 different parts of the company every 6 months. So they might start in IT and then get rotated to sales and then get rotated to logistics and then get rotated to some other part.
How can they do the work when they don't have the profession?
That's what the rotational program's for.
Wow.
Is to give them a little bit of experience in different things. And then wherever they succeeded the most, they could choose to go into that one, or whoever wanted them the most could choose them. And so,
I hope that we get a chance to do the rotation.
and so, but those are very, very competitive. Those are very, very hard to get to. And again, but usually they'll be very specific in those aspects. But most companies will say bachelor's degree. That's all I'll say. Bachelor's degree, and again, an interest in whatever the company does. So again, that's a big part of it, and to go beyond that, to be different from each other, okay, you all come out of here with bachelor's degrees. Okay, well, what's going to differentiate you from each other?
Yeah.
Right? So what are the other things that you can do? Are you joining, are you leading a club? Are you joining a nonprofit association that's associated with technology? Are you doing meetups? Are you holding meetups yourself and saying, hey, we're just this meetup computer club that wants to practice Linux every Saturday? It's those sorts of things that differentiate you, because they're like, oh, you're going out and doing this thing on your own initiative, your own interest. And that adds to your resume, that adds to those types of things. So again, getting additional certifications, getting additional education in specific things, again, showcases that you have an interest in the field, right? Or reaching out to them directly, being like, hey, can I learn more about this? And even if nothing comes from it, other than you just meeting with the person, you're now going to be shortlisted in their mind as somebody that's interested in their company. So when somebody says, hey, we got this entry-level job, you're like, oh, I met with this student who was really interested in our company. Maybe they would be interested in this job. Because you'll be the first on their mind, because you're the one that expressed interest, and they won't even open up a job opening. They'll just ask you to come and join.
So next time, don't send CV, just call the CEO.
Just call anybody.
So you just join the networking event or something?
Join the networking events, go to the career fairs. So I think there's a career fair at the end of this month.
So I think that is all the questions for today.
Okay.
Thank you for your valuable time.
Of course, I'm happy to help.
Very informative interviews.
I'm happy to help. Thanks for having me.